Welcome back to Intentionally Disturbing. This week I get to talk with Kristina Finch Bloom. Kristina is a fellow Canadian. Yes, I'm Canadian, guys. And she is married to the president of TikTok Canada. Kristina and I have quite a funny conversation where we go through how Canada views America. Right now, we talk a little bit about Trump, and we talk about those infamous TikTok comments on my viral "Don't return your shopping cart" video. I hope you enjoy it. Oh, hey. You're here. Today I get to talk to Kristina. I'm very excited. So we're calling it what? Follower turned friend. Kristina is Canadian, and I don't know if anyone knows this, but so am I. Kristina is married to somebody pretty high up in the TikTok world, the president of TikTok.
TikTok Canada, more specifically.
Yeah. How are you feeling about your recent election and our recent election?
So, I mean, I think I've got a lot of pretty mixed feelings. It was really interesting, I would say, to see Canada go from such a anti-liberal sentiment. I mean, our prime minister was in power for a decade, which is a very long time, no matter what country you're from. Because you have millions of listeners, but the way the Canadian politics tenure and like timeline works is much different than the US. It's not 4 years, 8 years. A prime minister can actually run indefinitely. And Trudeau was a sign of that. And by the end, Canadians were really, really pissed off with him and the Liberal leadership in general. And we swung largely conservative, which happens every about decade or so. Canadians go liberal, 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 and then we're like, the world is crumbling. Let's go conservative. We stay conservative for about a year, and then we go back to liberal. And I think we saw that trend happening. And then your president got elected and started shit with Canada for absolutely no reason, insofar as any of us can tell. And Canada went conservative. And we thought that Polyev was a shoo-in. And frankly, as a liberal person myself, I was looking forward to some transformative change. And then Polyev was seeming to be aligned with Trump. And then we went right back to liberal. So I would say it was a bit of a confusing time for all Canadians in politics. I thought that Trudeau delivered an amazing speech in opposition to Trump. And I think that sort of started swinging the pendulum back to liberal. Anyway, I could talk politics all day, but all that to say, I'm conflicted by it. I think that Carney is a strong leader. I think Polyev would have been some really good change for Canada for a little bit. And the one thing I can say for sure is that Canada is fed up with the whole thing. I mean, our grocery shelves are stockpiled with made in Canada, made in Canada, made in Canada, and they're empty. And all the ones that say made in the US, full. No one's buying US. I went into the grocery store to buy whiskey for my husband because he happens to be a connoisseur. And stupidly, I'm still breastfeeding. I'm not sleeping. I am blonde by birth. So I've got all these things working against me. And I'm like, oh my God, where did the whiskey section go? And I got blasted by an employee. She's like, how dare you support the US? And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. So there's no bourbon on any of our shelves, no American wine, no nothing. And so Canada is really, really looking inward at making sure we're supporting our own economy, which I would say was well timed. We needed to lean into Canadian made things anyway. Like, I believe in a global economy, but you also have to support what's at home. So that was a very long-winded answer. Sorry.
No, it's good. Sorry. The Canadian, sorry.
Sorry. I'll say that a lot.
I did not know that. I did not know that it was to that extent.
Oh yeah. I mean, restaurants are taking out Canadian made or American made beefs. Like, it's pervasive. It's everywhere. From the convenience store all the way to the fanciest of restaurants, to all of our alcohols, to even our candy. Even our candy. Like, I've got an 11-year-old daughter who's obsessed and she can't get certain candies. And oh my gosh, so my daughter's having a 3-Rex birthday party, very exciting. So I ordered from Etsy this really beautiful little tutu T-Rex girly costume. because even though she likes dinosaurs, she's a true little girl. And I already was paying an absorbent amount of money in shipping, which I didn't mind because I like supporting small business, even if it is from the US. It's not a small business owner's problem that these tariffs exist. And so I was
Right.
paying double the cost of the item to have it shipped. It showed up in my door and there was a $65 American tariff on top of it. And I emailed the woman and I said, hey, listen, I just want to let you know, as a Canadian, I now got charged another almost 1/3 of the total cost for these tariffs. She ended up paying for it and apologizing profusely and reading, like very long list of her products getting increased. And she's like, I can't sell to Canadians anymore, and this is half of my base. It's crazy,
Wow.
crazy.
Wow. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Maybe that's why no one's buying my sweatshirts that say I'm not your fucking therapist.
I want one.
How do I send it? How do I send it to
Not
Canada?
easily. Yeah, no, very, very not easily. I
We
mean,
can
it,
meet
it,
at Niagara Falls. We'll
yes,
throw it
except
over.
who's going to cross the border? Because at this point, people are getting their citizens or their passports taken away, and people are like, if you have any anti-sentiment, anything on your phone for Trump, they can look through and penalize you for it. It's crazy, crazy.
So there was this one weird thing that happened with TikTok where like I started following JD Vance and Trump. My account did, but I didn't do it.
I can't speak to the algorithms for TikTok or anything else, but I actually noticed that it happened for me on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm a Canadian. Why would I follow JD Vance of all people?
Right. Well, I mean, his wife, like, I really liked her dress, during the inauguration, and I loved that her daughter had band-aids on every finger, and they were like unashamed about how like this is what our children really are. They're just hot messes. But that's about it. That's about it. So, but yeah, I had to go unfollow a bunch of politicians that I never followed.
Same.
That's weird. Do you and Josh, like, sit at home and well, you don't drink whiskey and drink something and, like,
We
talk
still have
about
some
we
left. We still have some
okay.
left.
Do you talk about, like, just the weird shit like that?
Yeah, I would say we used to a lot more when we were in COVID and all the rest. But and I obviously can't disclose anything because there's a lot going on in the walls of every social media company. But
Yeah.
we've talked a lot less because there's just so like I know there's a lot happening in the US with TikTok, but there's a lot going on in Canada with TikTok as well. The government's involved, and um we don't get to quite chat as openly as we once did. And also because it's kind of sad that there's a lot of governing of free speech in Canada specifically. I don't know if you know, but uh, the Canadian government 2 years ago shut down the ability to broadcast news on social media, any news from CBC, CNN, anything. And that felt like a pretty large smack in the face to freedom of speech, especially since like social media isn't the problem, right? All it is a platform to spread information. So the information and the people are the problem. Social media is merely a tool to disseminate and to distribute the content. And when the government gets involved and says you're not allowed to distribute this content anymore, kind of things start to go a little bit dark and weird. And so unfortunately we don't sit around and we share TikTok videos all the time, all day, every day. But we don't talk about it a whole lot because it's a very complicated web right now.
It is, like, one of the most I don't know if you'd call it trending, but, I don't really use Twitter or X, but,
Can we just call it
the
Twitter? Like X.
it's the but the racism that has
Yeah.
been kind of going viral on those apps and people just openly using the N word, just openly saying that they are a part of these horrible organizations. And it's just up there for the world to see, for our kids to see. Like,
Can I
I'm shocked.
can I share with you an unpopular opinion?
Yes.
And it has been my opinion for a very long time, and I largely have spoken about all of my opinions. I actually think it's wonderful that they have this platform that they can share their speech on. And you want to know why? Now we know who they are. Now we know what they think. It's no longer, your neighbor next door who is a covert narcissist. Now we know that he's singing, the N word and Ye's new HH song and whatever else. I would almost rather know. Do I like that it maybe could influence younger children? No. But I do also want to stop pretending that this doesn't exist. And when we suppress freedom of speech and when we don't know who our enemies are, then we don't know. And so the influence of younger people bothers me because it makes them think that this is okay. But I want to know. I want to know who these assholes are, frankly.
Yeah. No, I know. And I love that they are literally stupid enough to post the stuff with their fucking names, their faces, their full names. Like
Proud.
as we'll talk about my shopping cart situation, like the FBI picked up numerous of those threats made against me because they could find the people very easily. Like someone in like the living in the sticks in Oregon is on their watch list now because of the death threats that they were sending me.
Yeah.
And it's just
But
like
that
you
maybe that's a
think
good thing. Maybe that's a good thing.
it's a good thing that one I'm thinking of one individual and that he's so fucking stupid. It's a good thing.
Let
Like
the du-
I always say,
I'm not saying we should like allow people to hurt themselves, but maybe we just like remove warning labels and let things figure themselves out on their own.
yeah. Well, I mean, like working in prisons, it was always, is it a cold threat or is it a hot threat? And so the cold was like a kind of a mild threat, but we couldn't act on it. We couldn't give them consequences. And we were always told, take a cold threat and make it hot. You want the hot threat. You want to be able to offer consequences. And so if
Yeah.
we don't know, like if I didn't know people wanted to kill me, then, I'm going to be a lot more scared. But if you're just going to come out right and say, hey, I'm going to kill you and it's going to be Tuesday at 3, then that's cool. I'd prefer to know that.
Yeah. I would like to call law enforcement and say, hey, here's something interesting for you.
Well, unlike you, I get to carry a gun everywhere I go.
That was something I wanted to talk to you about too, because it's I don't think about anyone ever having a gun in their on their person ever. Like I can't say that it's ever crossed my mind except maybe walking home alone, after clubbing at 3 a.m. and being in a dark alley with someone where you think, oh no, maybe. But it's just not something as Canadians we think about, like ever.
Well, being from Canada, I was raised very anti-gun, and then it carried over to when we moved to America. And my father he's so anti-gun. He's very much, guns are only made to kill people.
Yeah.
And I tend to agree, although the defensive side of me is like, it is a nice last piece to keep yourself safe in situations when a knife or your body is not going to do it, right?
But it
So
also depends on your environment. If everybody else is carrying a gun around, then yeah, I mean, then it makes sense to bring a gun to a gunfight.
yeah. But it's like, I mean, I still look at it and I feel uncomfortable. I mean,
Mm,
I've gone through extensive training on using guns,
yeah,
and I think anyone who takes on, and it depends on the state, right? Like
yeah,
California's different. People in Walmart in like the deep South are just like they've just got guns strapped all over their fucking body. So I'm
crazy.
like, open.
I mean, that's one thing that we joke about in Canada too, is that like guns have more rights than women's uteruses in the US. It's true.
100%.
Sorry, again, sorry, Americans.
No, it is really true. So, I mean, if I'm not gonna have any more babies, I might as well just have guns.
Then you'll know it'll be protected.
It's horrifying.
It is.
Okay, so you sent me a video, truth or trolling,
Yes.
which when I opened it, I really 100% thought it was an SNL skit.
Right?
And it was mostly because of that blonde guy in the back with like the slicked back hair.
Voldemort, maybe?
Yeah, it looked like a wig, and I was like, this can't be real. It was real.
They can't even make an SNL skit out of it because it already is one.
Oops, commercial time. So in the same vein, we're going to do truth or trolling. I'm going to read you some comments on my viral shopping cart video, and then we'll just have a little discussion about it. So
Okay, I'm
let's
ready.
see.
So
As you,
I have to guess whether this was actually said or whether this is you trolling.
um, that, and then like maybe like we talk about the weight of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so to orient people who don't have social media, I did a video where I just very quickly, I think it was like 17 seconds, said I'm not going to return my shopping cart if my kids are in the car. And what else did I say? If my kids are in the car and I just don't want to. And I told everyone to fuck off,
Basically. And
basically.
that's what made me follow you.
Perfect. So the larger purpose of the video, which nobody really cared to look at the rest of my page or understand, the Daily Show, all the way up to like it was on Fox News. They kept calling me single mom who refuses to return her shopping cart all over the American news. I was like, okay. The larger point of the video was that if you don't feel safe, you should be paying attention to your gut and your intuition. And
Yeah.
when you're returning your shopping cart, you should think about, is there potential danger? Let me look around a little bit. And if there is, fuck the judgment, leave the cart somewhere safe. Obviously, like one of the comments was, just because of you, the cart rolled into the highway. Like, I mean, the projections onto me, also me being like a white woman with a vocal fry, like a Kardashian. I mean, the projections were just, I don't know. I had like clean hair and an aloe yoga sweater on. So all of this.
Shame. The shame.
So that video went viral, and it, like has like 100 million shares. I think I wrote down the statistics of the video. I don't know where it is. But if you look it up, I pinned it to the top of my TikTok just for the world to enjoy.
Can I say something about that, by the way? That
Yeah.
I use quite a few of your bites often, and not necessarily even where just shopping carts are concerned. But you gave a stat, or you linked out to some stat about the danger of parking lots in general. The fact that, of course, and especially as a Canadian, we always want to do, the kind or the gracious thing. Of course, returning your shopping cart is like a normal thing to do, but not at the danger of your very, innocent children. And there was another stat too about carjackings and children being in the car by accident. And it's just not worth it. And there's quite a few sound bites, and I wish my brain worked well enough to list them off for you, the soundbite creator. But I talk about them often with people, and it's not necessarily about shopping carts. It dovetails into so many other subjects. But it's like,
Yeah.
spatial awareness, taking a look around. You don't want to be worried all the time that, your children are going to get kidnapped or, what the worst of the worst. But if you're not aware and you don't know that a parking lot is a dangerous spot, and if you've never thought, hey, it's actually not worth the risk to not return my cart, then you don't know what you don't know.
Right. Exactly. And having worked with so many predators, you are vulnerable when you come out of the store. So they've watched you pull in, they've watched how you do it, they've watched you put your kids in the cart, you go into the store, and now they're waiting for a vulnerable moment to target you. And this may not be all the time, but predators are watching and they're waiting for patterns, and
Mhm.
especially pedophiles, especially child predators, they're going to set the scene up. They're going to watch you for weeks going to the grocery store, and they're going to watch your patterns. I mean,
Yeah.
I sure return your cart and zigzag and run like crazy and scream in the parking lot and look like a fucking crazy lunatic. Maybe they won't harm you, but it was the bigger point, right? It was the situational awareness.
Yeah.
And then other people like did the video who were men, and they got no hate. They got no
Shocking.
comments. Yeah. I mean, there was one, like, I think we call them small people now. There was like a small person who stitched the video and said, look, I can return my cart and I'm a small person. I was like, that's not the point.
But do you have small children in your car as well? That's
That's
the
not the
point.
point. Are you in downtown Los Angeles,
Yeah.
where you can't park? You're a mile from the store and your kids
Ugh.
are like, Okay, so
Okay, I'm
okay,
ready.
so what I noticed was that I am officially added to Wikipedia under the shopping cart theory.
I love
So,
this for you.
so I will read the little blurb about the theory. It says the shopping cart theory is an internet meme, which is apparently me, which judges a person's ethics by whether they return a shopping cart to its designated cart corral or deposit area. So, in simple terms, people refer to it as the ultimate litmus test. Can't say the word for whether a person is capable of self-governing, or the apex example of whether a person will do what is right without being forced to do it. So, if you do it, you're good. If you don't, you're bad. And we don't
Or
care about the situation.
or the context or
Yes,
anything else.
exactly. Okay. So that's kind of the context of the shopping cart. Okay, so here's our first comment. This is from Casey. I love how people's pictures are up, and now I saved all of them in case we get banned again. It's like a 350-page Word document.
Oh my gosh. The hate.
Okay, Casey said, as a dad, I try setting a good example by putting it away. And my late father once taught me there's a lot of typos. If you're too big to do something small, he's not putting in apostrophes. You're too small to do something big. And that really stuck with me.
I think that this person actually said it, truth. But
Correct.
but isn't that beautiful that it's a man? I'm sure he's white by the name Casey,
He
and
is.
his
Mhm.
kids are probably not in the car. So I'm gonna say that his late pops gave a beautiful soundbite, and that it does not apply. So go pound salt.
Exactly. Okay. We have NV music videos. There's someone we could look up. You're good because you have a reason. The shopping cart test is for men. A mother doesn't need to risk her or child's safety. Nobody should judge you unless they are just shit.
I think they also said that, and I approve. Check. I agree.
So clearly we have like the not so horrible comments. Okay, let's jump to. Oh, this is from a Leslie. Okay.
Oh, all right.
People who don't return their carts are those who only care about themselves. Don't worry about other people's cars or the employees who have to chase the cart down because you left it. It's all about you after all.
Oh my God. What a troll. Great name, terrible comment.
So they are so that's a true comment, but they are just like trolling me. Yeah. Okay, we've got Jose saying, you must be a bit slow for somebody who has doctor in their username.
That's funny. That's another true comment.
Yep. Yep. And there's so many typos. There's no period. There's no grammar.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. By the way, how much did you enjoy your education minister sending trolling messages to Harvard and the Harvard University professor just marking it up and sending it on the internet for all to see? Died. Hilarious.
That's how I respond to these comments. Like I don't
Wrong
respond.
there.
Yeah, all I do is I rewrite their hate speech and I correct it. And what am I supposed to do? Be like,
Yeah. Thank you. I will go die in a shopping cart. Wonderful.
okay. Savvy with a smiley face says, as a worker at a small retail store, I don't feel safe either in my dark, large parking lot where I have to walk around collecting carts with no cameras and men drinking beer.
I'm going to say that's also truth, but you choose to work there. And maybe you should have different roles and responsibilities. You don't feel safe.
I mean, she's got a point, right? Like, if you don't return your cart, who's going to return it?
Sure.
Right. But people have jobs that do that. And also, it's usually during the daylight. The manager of the store should be responsible for sending out a young woman in the middle of the night to get the carts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But that's also like, and not, again, not very Canadian of me, but that's not your problem. Like, that is literally her job. She literally gets paid to do that job. It's kind of what bothers me about self checkout. This is not my job. I do not work at your grocery store.
Yeah.
I do not want to check out my own groceries. I want to put my shopping cart back, and I always will when I can. But when I cannot, I won't. And I will feel no shame thanks to you.
Yeah. And also self-checkout, and then they ask for a tip. Like, no. But yet still, I have this gut reaction of like, oh my God, I feel guilty if I don't just give them the 10%. What is that? Like, what is $2 to me? But who am I giving it to? The giant
robots.
corporation?
The AI. The robots.
I know. Okay. Oh, here's one from a nice man named John Paul White. Fuck off yourself.
Oh,
Have you
God.
ever tried having a brain before? He that was misspelled. BRANE. It would tell you to fuck off and bring your cart back.
Wow. I think that's also truth. I think there are people this dumb. Sadly.
Yes, all of these are true. I just literally copied them from. And then one more neutral one. Now, this is from an orthodontist. So this is like a licensed doctor. I looked up his webpage. He's a human being. Again, all the comments are still up on TikTok if anyone wants to look. So this doctor says, it's pretty easy. Get groceries in the car. Again, this is full of typos. Get groceries in the car, have kids help, space, space, comma, space, space. Then have a fun time showing your kids how to return a cart and be a good person. Then put your kids in the car, LOL.
Wow. My 8-month-old loves helping me return the cart.
Exactly. Yeah. The narrow mindset of the comments and the inability for people to think bigger than the 17-second video. And then their justification of just throwing out such strong hate comments that are full of projection and judgment. It's amazing.
It is amazing. It's like you've left your dog in the car for an hour in the heat. Like,
Yeah.
these two things are not the same.
No. What did you think when you first saw the video before we started talking?
Yeah, actually, to tell you, and I'm sure maybe you've seen it written in your comments, maybe you haven't. I admittedly have read through some of your comments when I needed a good chuckle because listening to stupid people is quite funny. Um, it honestly, I felt like it set me free from an obligation that I had been conflicted over and putting my children in, a moment's danger. And then some of other people too saying, hey, actually, if you park right beside the shopping cart, then you could do great suggestion. One that I hadn't thought about before. Usually I want to park as close to the door as I physically can because I'm carrying, the baby bucket in one arm and I'm trying to make things quick. When actually, if I just park a little bit close to the actual cart itself, bingo, bango, all done. But honestly, it was pretty liberating for me to feel like, hey, there's actually like reasonable people out there that like, it's so bizarre because it is a litmus test. You're like, oh my God, if I leave my cart here, am I being an asshole? Who you have to think about who being an asshole to is the most important. If I'm being an asshole to that woman who has got to collect the carts at the end of the night, I'm sorry, but my children, I would like to be an asshole less to than you. Sorry
Right.
about your inconvenience. You're being paid. My children are innocent sitting in a car.
Right. And who are all of these people when every time you go to a parking lot, there are carts everywhere? Like,
Everywhere.
who are all the people saying that they return their carts because nobody seems to?
I would say that I very rarely see a shopping cart left out, especially in the suburbs. More down, like more
Really?
in in the big cities. But I don't feel guilty now if I'm in a suburban and I've even left it there and someone looked at me. I'm like, sorry, my kids are in the car. Do you want to move it for me? Oh, you don't? Okay, bye. Bye. Thank you. For me, I found it very liberating, and that's what drew me to your content was like, hey, we can have these conversations about safety, and you've experienced so much in your life, none of which I've experienced. I've never worked, in a jail. I've never. But I wanted to be a forensic psychologist in university, but I certainly never got to even the studying portion of it. I love true crime, so I don't know if that makes me a doctor, maybe. Um,
Yeah,
but
a
it's
TikTok doctor.
yeah, exactly. But it was very liberating to me to see a movement where it's like, hey, let's be aware, let's look at our surroundings, and let's not feel guilty about stupid shit because this is
Exactly.
stupid shit, inconsequential at the end of the day.
And taking it to even a larger place, the fact that this was like world news shows you the state of our world. Like people needed to retreat from the heavy stuff, and they had to, or maybe people only had the capacity to comment on something like this because they don't have the capacity to comprehend what's happening in the actual world.
Yeah, yeah, they need to pan out a little farther. It's a little a little frightening. But this tends to be something too that like, it's you live in such a population dense country with so many different types of people across the US, right? Canada's population wise is very, very small. We're a very large physical mass, but there's only the same amount of population as in California. And I would argue that the French Canadians are different than the people from Vancouver, but not by such an overwhelming degree. In the US, you guys have just so very, very diverse types of people and thoughts and feelings and politics and all the rest. Very, very, and also very divisive. Like Americans argue more. Canadians are just like, meh, you don't agree?
I know.
Okay, bye.
What do you think that's about? Why is it? I mean, it is like it is so incredibly divisive here on about everything.
I don't really know. I don't know if it's cultural, where Canadians have just been raised to have conversations. And sure, I mean, we fight as much as Americans do, but it's just not. We don't seem to hold on to our opinions with such conviction. I don't know. Like I'm happy to be wrong. Prove it to me. And most of the people that I know, but 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 maybe that's my circle of influence, and I don't know enough people. I don't know. I can't answer that.
We'll be right back after this break. So, as we wrap up, I would love to hear, oh, and I didn't read the one. God, there was one comment that I didn't read because it was so bad, but it was like, get ready. I'm going to put a bullet in your head and your kids' heads.
That's scary.
Yeah,
That's scary.
that
And
was
the
a
thing
really
too
bad
is,
one.
like how do you not be afraid to put out content? How do you not be afraid to say something that people are not going to agree with, especially when you have such a huge platform and not be afraid?
But again, I think a lot of these people are, they're miserable and they're just finding the keyboard warriors, finding a place
I
to
know.
place their hate, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
I can't live my life without morals and mission and know that, for some fucking reason, I can talk about gruesome shit and people will listen. And if I was like some old fucking fat white dude, I don't think people would listen in the same way. And
No.
that's why I think like juries listen to me because they're like, whoa, what'd you say? Wait, she just talked about a rectum. Hold on. I'm just like giggling and like, but okay. So with all that said, what is your overall view on being, I mean, you're in the TikTok family. So what is your overall view on that comments can get so bad and can get so dark and can stay up there and be allowed to kind of bully people in that way?
Yeah, I did. It kind of goes back to what I said before. I'm almost more for it than against it, and I don't know if that sounds callous or um, I would just rather know where the death threats are coming from and have that account linked and be able to go to the police and say, here's this person who is, giving me death threats. To your point about those, like the cold threats, those are almost a little bit more frightening because they maybe they pose a threat. They're not outright saying like, "Hey, I'm going to come shoot you and your kids in the head." But I would rather know who my enemies are. But that leads more to my point about people being more strategic about when you let your children use social media. I'm very much am of the mindset that like no social media until maybe your prefrontal cortex is closed. I don't know. Is it reasonable to think your child's never going to go on social media before 18 to 21? Probably not. But there's a reason that TikTok's age is 13 as a minimum. And there's a reason that they're working more and more. And I don't mean to sound like, an advocate for TikTok, you know, but they're working on making sure that the comment sections are being monitored. Like children should have monitoring. And the apps that are coming out to monitor your children's phones and the negative and positive sentiment controls that exist when your child's texting another human to alert the parents, hey, your child's being bullied. It's happening online more and more and more and offline less and less because, like you said, people are, keyboard warriors. Um, but I think the comment section should exist for adults. And I think that we just need to be more responsible with how our children use social media so that the true form of freedom of speech isn't influencing their very influenceable brains. And I know it's a very unpopular opinion. So, but
No, I
it
think it's an
happens to be
amazing
mine.
perspective. It's an amazing perspective. And again, people, especially in America, are fed ideologies, are fed propaganda, fed news, whatever you want to call it, and they just believe it. They don't question it.
Yeah.
So, it's refreshing to hear your perspective. I
Yeah.
mean, we literally are told that TikTok is going to steal all of our information. I mean, I still can't believe the day TikTok got closed in America, but all of you guys, everywhere else in the world, everyone could see us, see our accounts.
Well, the more embarrassing thing was all these admissions that these TikTok influencers were giving as they thought their worlds were collapsing. To me, honestly, I think that, and I don't think I can get in any trouble for this. I think it was a bit of a stunt, to be honest. I think it was meant to make Trump look like he could come in and save the day. I'm not saying that TikTok colluded with Trump to 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 make that so. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think um, companies were just like, okay, well, if you're gonna shut us down, then shut us down. Like it's a lot of posturing, and then it allowed Trump to come and save the day. Um, Ultimately, you and I talked about this before. The whole thing about it being a Chinese company and all the rest of it. I mean, technically, it's a Singaporean company, and yes, it's owned by a Chinese holdco. Um, but so are microchips. So are the SIM cards in your phone. So are the batteries in your Tesla. I mean, it's a little bit asinine, in my opinion, that we're worried that China is going to steal our brains from the TikTok apps, where 90% of people are just dancing and having fun and spreading joy and creativity. It's not, TikTok was always meant to be a happy platform and a dancing platform. And, again, inspiring creativity and imagination and all these really wonderful things. But China's not stealing that. And maybe I'm naive. I leave room for that. I'm not in the tech industry anymore, but it doesn't make sense. And also, look what's happening with Meta. They're on trial again right now. Look what's happening with Google. Like, if you think our data is being collected by China, maybe we should be worried about what data is being collected by all of your apps. I mean, you and I talk on the phone, and then all of a sudden I'm getting an ad the next day with literal physical verbiage that we didn't type, that we only talked about. That's not from China.
No,
And it's not
exactly.
TikTok. So I don't know.
Exactly. But it's so great to have a conversation about it and like just put the different perspectives out there. And I think Americans are, well, one, we don't get news about the rest of the world, right? We just hear about,
Right.
you
It's
know, like
amazing.
I think we're just gonna buy Canada. You guys have a price.
Never. That will never happen. Never.
um,
Never.
but we don't hear about other countries, and we sure as fuck don't hear about other countries' perspectives of us.
Yeah. And I think, one thing that Carney's speech really did a good job of, I thought, was him saying, like, listen, we love Americans. We just don't love American politics. And we don't like what the politicians are doing to the relationship between Canadian politics and US politics. I still love all my Canadian or American friends just as much as before. And to your point, my friends are calling me in the US and saying, like, hey, are we the laughing stock of the universe? I'm like, I mean, it's not great. It's not a good look what Trump is doing and it's not the Americans that are the laughing stock. It's American politics that is the laughing stock. I mean, this guy is accepting a $400 million plane, $1 billion plane. Okay, great. Yeah. And you heard of the Trojan horse? No one? Anyone? Okay. Like,
What he said was he would be stupid not to.
stupid. Yeah. That's, yeah. No.
I think we became the laughing stock, when Arnold came into office because I was in England at the time and everybody was like, "Is this a stunt?" I was like, "No,
No. No, it's not. But you know
no.
what? I would
We
vote
like
for
actors running our government."
I would take Schwarzenegger for president over your current administration. But that's just me.
Maybe we could change the rule and I could be the president,
I
even
love
though
it.
I wasn't born there, but we've changed that rule.
Yeah.
I know. Okay, final thoughts.
I
Give us a call to action.
Oh, well, actually I wanted to ask you about AI because you're kind of the specialist and like what do we need to look out for in terms of keeping our families safe with all this craziness? Because very soon the videos are going to be very believable, whether
Yeah.
it's given from any social media app or the news, or I mean, like, how are you dealing with that in your practice? How do we deal with that as mothers and parents? And you know give me the shopping cart spin on this. What do we do?
I mean, I think there's a lot of we need to keep things old school in a
Yeah.
way. Like we should keep printed photos. We should keep our identification in a non-burn bag, right? An anti-fire
Yeah.
bag. Like we really should go back to the 1950s and make sure that we have everything, a foundation laid out in that way and be
Yeah.
able to prove when there are deep fakes or when our images are used, and it can be anyone, right? It will be everyone soon. It won't just
Yeah.
be people putting themselves out there, right? That you can take a 4-year-old's picture and morph them into an 18-year-old and then use that for somebody's fake ID. I mean, so keeping records and documentation is a safety and security measure, and keeping it offline. And there are some really good apps that are encrypted where you can start to keep things secure and private. I know that like or
Have you told
Signal.
Hegseth to try that?
Yeah, Signal is a great app if you don't show the whole world the government secrets. um, but I think, realizing that even if you think you're just putting up one picture and it was one time, you're giving the internet access to your child, and those
Yeah.
images can be stored and morphed, and they can track the growth of your child over time and use it to then eventually become whatever child they want
Whatever.
to be, whatever adult they want to be, right? The capacity
Yeah.
is amazing. I mean, you sent me a video of you. of your wedding photo and you were dancing, and it was like AI generated, right?
Yeah,
It's incredible. But it's also
incredible.
really, really scary. And we have to be able to prepare for the worst. But we don't want to live in fear at the same time. So if we can prepare in a way that makes us comfortable and grounded and limit
Yeah,
our online exposure.
yeah,
Like
and
these celebrities who are showing their homes.
yeah.
And there's just so much where you can find them.
The other trend, if you recall, was like children holding that really cute poster board with the child's school name and their teacher's
Yes.
name and their favorite color and what they want to be when they grow up, and basically avoiding any safe word that a stranger may use, like, "Oh, your mom told me that your favorite color is green, and that or
Yeah.
your teacher, Mrs. Babick, said it's okay for me to pick you up." I thought that was again one of those moments where you just don't think about it, and you're posting this really innocent, really wonderful moment
Yeah.
that really is not internet shareable. And I
And
think that's
that's
a lesson for me.
yeah, I mean AI in itself is a predator, right?
Yeah,
And it gives predators more ways to leverage predatory things.
yeah,
And, most crimes are impulsive, but many are very instrumental and they play out for a long time and criminals build on things that they like. I mean, look at Sean Combs and the trial. He definitely grew into himself over the years and he started to have a taste and a style and an enterprise and everybody was coming on to not to say come, but everybody was like joining.
pardon the pun, not pardon.
But it's so awesome. I mean, just, talk to your family, talk to your friends, check yourself. Just
Yeah,
check yourself, see where you're at. And also hire one of those companies, Reputation Defender. There's all these companies, Delete Me. That's what the FBI uses, I think. And they'll just scan the internet. They'll just make sure your
yeah.
address isn't out there. And they'll just keep checking to see that you're not on the dark web. And they can even check for photos of you and your kids.
So then that's my actionable takeaway is to do what I'm going to do, and what I'm committed to doing, which is taking my kids down from social media. And the other thing too was I saw a photo that I had posted, again, super innocently, of my family standing in front of my home, and my not my name of my street, but my street number was on our home in the background. And it was another one of those moments that was like, oh my gosh. And it's completely accidental. So, you ask me what my action item is, it would be to do what I'm doing and, realize the harm that's out there, and protect your children, not just in your shopping carts, but online.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's amazing to hear you say that, married to the president of TikTok Canada. I mean, even
Yeah.
with his job, we all have to be equally aware and the CEOs of our own lives and families.
Yeah. Yeah. And if anything, we should actually be more vigilant about it because we understand the inherent risk. But I think we just convince ourselves that, oh, if I keep my account private and I only have these people following me, that's safe and that they're safe and that we're safe. But that's not the truth, unfortunately, sadly.
No, hackers are really, really good. And there will be a time in your life where you are the target of hacking. I mean, all of
Yep.
us experienced following accounts we didn't choose to follow after the election, even private accounts.
No
So,
doubt. Yeah.
oh, I'm so glad that you took this time to go into the TikTok studio, have an amazing setup and background, and then have it epically fail. Nothing worked. And now you're in like a closet
I am in a
on
closet.
your
I
cell
am
phone
on
and
my cell phone.
in
But here we are. We
TikTok.
made it happen.
See, technology
Thank you
only takes
for
us so far.
It's true. Yeah, that's very true. Well, thank you for having me. It's so fun to chat with you always. And like you said, being just a follower to a friend has been a fun journey. So thank you for your advice along the way. And I look forward to lots more laughing at your president.